I'm at it a while, so no wonder I'm battered.
Hello and Kate Míle Fáilte to MudderRucker, the podcast all about Irish women's rugby. Join me, Ailbhe O'Nolan.
And me, Cianan Willor.
As we bring you the latest on the Irish women's team, from squad selections to match analysis and everything in between. Each week we'll be joined by some of the biggest names in Irish women's rugby to get their insights, stories and behind-the-scenes perspectives on life at the top of the game.
If you enjoy the show, be sure to follow, rate and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. It really helps us to grow.
Now, strap on your scrum cap, get stuck in, and let's talk Irish women's rugby. Welcome to the first ever episode of MudderRucker, the podcast dedicated to Irish women's rugby. I'm delighted to welcome Irish international, Munster and most importantly, UL Bows player Chloe Pearse. Welcome.
Brilliant, thanks for having me. Had to get the UL Bows player in there, it's the most important part.
Absolutely, always a Robin, huh? So today we're going to discuss the upcoming Six Nations competition that kicks off this weekend. Ireland are going to face France in Belfast. We'll chat a little bit about the Irish form, delve into what it's like in Irish camp, and we'll look forward to this Six Nations competition this year. So last year we saw Ireland, the form vastly improve. We came third in the Six Nations last year, which was huge improvement on previous years. And we saw us qualify for the WXV 1, which was, you know, we were looking at a kind of a hefty competition to be dropped into, having been in WXV 3. But we went and came second. Chloe, what for you has changed in that short period of time?
Yeah, I think it was a big year really, and even going into those last Six Nations games against Scotland, it didn't even look like we were going to qualify for the World Cup directly off the bat, and thankfully Italy kind of actually slipped up a little bit against Wales, so that did help us out. Obviously we still had to beat Scotland to qualify and get into WXV1, but the girls did the job that was there in front of them. You can only play the game that you're playing really, and then to get into WXV1, not going to lie, I was a little nervous of how we'd fare out, you know, like, because even the girls won WXV3, but it wasn't convincing, you know, was it? Like that final, like it was a try very late in the game to even win it. So skipping X2 to go into the top tier with England, New Zealand, Canada, was a little bit nervous. I'm kind of watching as a spectator and as a supporter, but God, didn't they prove us all wrong? I think what's changed has, from what like just hearing around the grapevine, is Scott is a big thing. He's come in, and this kind of cultural aspect that he seems to bring to the table seems to kind of land well with a lot of the players. Obviously, I do think it would be unfair not to address the sevens coming into the squad. You know, they definitely bring a professionalism. You know, there's like top quality players there. I think that actually just our squad, I won't even say just in the back line, because as we see Erin King, you know, is in the pack and has just been a standout. So I do think that has made a massive difference. And then just, I think we're starting to see the fruition of the contracts for the last 12 months, you know, like a player, I kind of see it, like even when I see Linda, and, you know, we don't see 80-minute props going too much, but God, she's as fit as a fiddle. She's the fittest I've ever seen her. And that's definitely because of the program they're on and the contracted kind of players. So, you know, a couple of pieces slow coming in, but I think they've all kind of paid dividends now. We're getting to see the results on the back of that.
And you talked there about culture and the culture that comes from Scott Beeman. Is that just within the camp and amongst the players and the direct management, or is that a wider cultural shift within the RFU, do you think?
I don't know, to be honest, because I'm not up there, but from like, you know, I know they've brought in a couple of externals as well to work on that kind of cultural piece and how they want the team to run. And you kind of see that, you know, like, and you hear the girls talking in interviews about, you know, Scott lets them to believe like that they're capable of winning these games. And look, let's be honest, I never thought they'd beat New Zealand. I know we did it in 2014, and like that next morning when I woke up, I was shocked when I saw the result. I didn't stay up for it, unfortunately, but I was really surprised when I saw it. And then when I watched the game, even, you know, I knew the result and I was still watching it saying, no, they're not going to win, that New Zealand are going to pull away. But I think it's just that belief that he seems to have instilled. Now, look, he's come from high performance, like Scott was involved in England. He knows what good looks like. So he's obviously taken a bit of the model from that, but it's obviously done nothing. Whether it's throughout the whole RFU, I don't know. But within the team that they have and the players that are there, there's definitely something brewing, and it seems to be working anyway. And, you know, we'll find out on Saturday whether it continues.
Absolutely, yeah. I see you can see the players as they move around the park. There is that bit of self-belief, and, the heads don't drop. It's like the heads can't drop. It's not, I suppose it's not about the whole game. It's about moments. It's about doing what's in front of you. And it seems to be definitely a cultural shift from at least the outside looking in. I know he talked about last year playing France and just having shots at them, just making sure they know we're there and that we're competing. And I think it's worked very well.
Yeah, I was going to say, first match up in the Six Nations, obviously it's incredibly exciting, but there's 8 new caps. What's it like being a new cap on an international side?
Oh, I think it's nerve-wracking. I think as a new cap, you're coming into camp, there's so much to learn. It can be quite overwhelming. Depending, if, I suppose it's a little bit different now, like previous years, you're a new cap, you're coming in on the back of playing with your club, and, the camps are on the weekends and then you go away during the week. Whereas I suppose a lot of these new caps now, like they have just so much more time up in camp, like the girls are up in camp Monday to Thursday for those couple of weeks. It's not just those short windows. So I imagine they get much more reps. They're much more settled. But whether we see there's 8 new caps named, whether we see 8 new caps now is another thing. There's uncapped players in the squad, but it'll be remain to see whether they'll get capped or not in this Six Nations.
Yeah, I think certainly the back row, the competition in the back row is just phenomenal this year. We're looking at pretty much 8 back row options. Across 3 positions, across 5 games, you're not going to get a huge amount of turnover there. Who do you think are going to be the choice back row? I'm looking at the likes of Brittany Hogan, who has been solid and consistent and easily one of our better players. But the likes of Erin King, Aoife Wafer, Adele McMahon, who can you leave off the team sheet if Brittany Hogan's there? It's tough decision for Scott Beeman, I think.
Yeah, like in those kind of, especially in the Wolfhounds and Clovers games, there would have been a couple of, direct head-to-heads there. Like you'd Brittany, you've Erin, you'd Aoife, then Tricky was back playing with the Clovers when she wasn't playing with Exeter. You've Derv playing out of her skin. A good player is going to lose out. That's like unfortunate, but to be honest, that's where we need to be. Like, I'm looking at the England squad and I'm kind of saying you have the wingers they have, and then I see Mia Venner at the weekend playing for Gloucester, who was phenomenal. And realistically, is she going to upheave Ellie Kildun? Probably not, but she'll probably walk into any other Six Nations squad. So yeah, it probably bode well, not that it bode well, but the timing of Adele getting injured in WXV actually made space for Brittany, Aoife and Erin to start together, which for me, that's your back row. They're the team that beat New Zealand. They're the team that beat Canada. It's harsh on Adele. It's harsh on her. But the reality is they're the players that have delivered. So why would you go away from it? Now, obviously, whatever's happening in camp is very different. But from an outside looking in, the proof is in the pudding. That's their winning back row. So I wouldn't be straying too far from that.
Yeah, it's a new place for the Irish squad to be, particularly of late, to have that kind of strength and depth. There was times where we were thinking, do we have a second option for certain positions? Even looking back to 2023 Six Nations, I did a count of the amount of caps, or the average caps across the squad, and it was 6.225 caps. We're now at over double that, at the average of 13. It's still low by comparison to the likes of England and France, and a lot of the more established sides. We're very much a young side still, but we're getting that depth and we're building that, and it's great to see.
Yeah, I think with those, as well, the only thing, we're not considering is the experience the sevens players probably bring in. If you're to look at Amy Lee, Stacey, Eve, how many series tournaments have they played in? I know it's not the direct equivalent to Women's Six Nations, but, it's the pressure of playing on a big stage. What they lack in caps in 15s, I do think they bring in abundance in sevens. They've been in the pressure pot. So, the statistic will show maybe we're 12 caps on average a player, but I think the experience the girls bring are worth more than that. But yeah, it's scary when you think of the most cap players, Rocky, at 137, caps for England. And our starting 15 probably didn't even have that last year. That's a frightening kind of statistic to go with it.
Absolutely, yeah. Who do you think out of the new caps, those fresh faces coming in, who do you think is one to watch out for, whether it's this competition or in the future?
I suppose here's the Munster UL Bows bias is going to come out in me. I think Katrina Finn. if I was to pick one player, just looking at someone who's like a real utility back, like she's only 18, can play 10, 12, recently then playing 15 with the Clovers. So obviously somewhere that they're looking at her, but she's an incredible boot. She just sees the game, like she reads it. She's lived and breathed, like anyone in New Elbows will know her since she was 10, coming down, kicking before training. Like she's a nerd of the game, like, and she's invested and committed, and her whole life has been to this moment to try get capped for Ireland. So I'd love to see that come to fruition. But, you know, what a year to do it in. Like when you go to a World Cup, you pick a squad of 30 to 32 players. Like you do need certain players who are going to cover an amount of positions, you know. So she's someone I'd have in that squad. And if you're going to have her in that squad, I think you probably need to cap her in the Six Nations so that her first cap doesn't come in a World Cup.
Absolutely, yeah. You don't want to parachute her into a World Cup. Isn't it a great place to be in as well, that, you know, what we were looking at probably, you know, 10, even 5 years ago was players who started when they went to college because there was no, you know, club rugby underage near them. And, you know, players started, some players started in their 20s. And all of a sudden they're playing at international level. Now we're seeing young girls starting at the age of 6 and coming up right through. And like you said, living, breathing the game and understanding it. It's a fabulous space to be in, I think. For you, what was your story? When did you start playing rugby?
So I started when I was about 13. I'd always played like soccer growing up. My dad was big soccer mad. So like that, always playing soccer, always out kicking a ball, hurling, didn't matter, just out morning, noon and night. Like that, played probably a bit of rugby just with the lads out in the field. But it wasn't until I went to secondary school that one of the girls' parents started the rugby team in St. Mary's in Limerick. And I went to school with their daughter, and she knew obviously I was a bit of a tomboy playing soccer. So just like that, asked me to come down, and just went down one night and absolutely loved the physicality of it. And went down on a Wednesday, played a match out in Shannon on a Saturday, scored 4 tries, and just literally, I think it was the 1st of November. I remember being the day after Halloween and never looked back from there. Like, so when we say people are starting at 20, I'm telling everyone I'm playing this game 19 years now that I'm at it a while. So no wonder I'm battered.
Why am I not shocked that you scored 4 tries in your first game?
Yeah, it was half pitch, to be fair. And in my defence, I haven't grown since I was about 13. I was probably double the size back then. So I kind of just ran over a lot of people. I got a rude awakening when I came to senior that wasn't the way the game works.
I think you're still running over people.
Oh, no, they're catching up on me now, I tell you.
Very good. So being in camp with the international side, what kind of an experience is that? Is it a kind of a bubble? Is it really competitive? Everybody takes every moment of it very seriously. Is there room for a bit of crack, a bit of personality? What is the kind of the atmosphere like within camp?
Yeah, I suppose it kind of depends, you know, on the state of play, what you're going in. Like, are you going like when we went to a summer tour in Japan with Greg, you know, that was very different to, you know, in a Six Nations or even the prep for, I suppose, the World Cup qualifier with Adam that time, because, you know, the pressure's really on then versus a summer tour where in general you're kind of out to cap players. And I think that tour was, you know, there was 8 new caps when we went to Japan. So it kind of depends, but like you do have to find those pockets of crack and those pockets of enjoyment because it's intense. Like it's tough. Like, you know, there's a lot of sessions, there's a lot of information, you've meetings on meetings, you know, and then when you go back to the hotel that evening, everyone's on huddle, you know, everyone's doing their analysis. So, you know, those kind of social times are having a bit of crack on a Sunday morning. Like I remember, like a lot of the time in Adam Griggs's era, like it was a Sunday morning walk through and there might be a soccer ball or, you know, there might be some other sort of game and you're still moving. And because Saturday's a tough day, you know, you might have 3 sessions between a gym and then 2 pitch sessions. You wake up Sunday, you're sore, like, you know, it's tough to get up and go again. So just doing something, having a small 5-a-side game, like where everyone can have the crack, even though some people are ultra competitive anyway. As you can imagine, Lindsay Peat, no matter what you're playing, if it's 5-a-side soccer on a Sunday, she wants to win, you know, but it's good because you get moving. But those are kind of the little enjoyment factors that you get out of it. But it is tough, like, and I know I spoke to Beth Buttimer recently, you know, I asked how she was getting on the first week, and like that, she just said she was mentally exhausted, like, you know, she's only 19, first time up there, and it does take its toll. It's really tough, like, and I think that's where the onus of senior players kind of comes in, that you really need to look after those younger players and put an arm around them and make sure, like, that they are okay, because, like, it's physically really demanding, obviously, you know, the level's so high, but also mentally, like, there's a lot going on. Like, you're getting a schedule that tells you what to wear, when to, you know, even small things like that. And then someone will tell you can't wear sliders at breakfast, and it seems like the silliest thing, but that's the code of conduct and you have to go with it. But, you know, that's where an older player kind of comes in and has to kind of show the way, I suppose, of what the standards are, and make sure that you're looking after those younger players so that they don't nearly drown in information more so than the rugby, because it's mentally really fatiguing.
Yeah, it sounds like it's, you know, the type of thing that could overwhelm somebody who's quite young coming in. I can't imagine the pressure. And, you know, I can imagine that a young player comes in as well, and they're standing beside their idol as well. You know, they're standing beside somebody they've watched play for a few years, and all of a sudden they're in there along with them. And it must be quite an exciting feeling, as well as terror, utter terror at times. What was it like for you, your first camp?
Yeah, like, so I was up, like, my first cap was in 2016, so I think I was only, just can't even think now, maybe 21 at the time. And like that, I went up with, I was in a good group, like, where we had a pod in Limerick, where it was like myself and Niamh Briggs, Fiona Reedy, Liz Burke and Niamh Kavanagh, so there was kind of 5 of us. And like that, the girls were really good to make sure I was looked after. And then it helped when I went up, like, Fiona Hayes was there and Heather O'Brien, so I knew them from Munster, and they were always really good to me, like Hayes and Reedy, like, even moving into the front row, like, they were an abundance of support. Like, obviously Briggsy was great as well. She was just in the back, so I didn't see her all the time. You know, you just a lot of splits, and, you know, your forwards are off doing forward stuff and backs are off picking daisies, as they say. So, you know, Hayes and Reedy were really, really good. Doing their hair or whatever backs do when they're not causing scrums. But, you know, the girls were really good like that. I had a really good support network up there. I only played 2 of those games, and then I was kind of out for a while, I suppose. But when I went back up the next time, I still always had, like, Reedy and Ciara Griffin, and, you know, even though Ciara's 2 months older than me, but obviously she was such a stalwart, like, you know, she progressed so rapidly through the system. She was a senior player even still when I got there. But like that, always kind of had my back and looked out for me as well. So it was kind of good to have that.
Absolutely. Position. What was your favourite position?
Oh,
because you've played a few.
Yeah, I've played a few. Definitely 8. You know, I love that link play from the backs to the forwards and trying to be that kind of player who brings it all together. But yeah, no, definitely 8. Like, the stint in the front row was great, and, like, from I suppose, you know, when I was say I made the decision, I definitely didn't make it. You know, it was definitely a directed decision from people who saw the future for me, you know, to move into the front row, and then, you know, played the season with club there, and then we went into a global pandemic, and I probably ran as much as I ever had, and I actually lost quite a bit of weight, and I was probably the skinniest prop up there at the time at 75 kgs. Now, it wasn't long putting it back on, but, you know, I kind of kept going, but I never loved it. Like, and that's, I think, if you're going to do something, and believe me, if you're going to be in scrums and you're going to be, you know, in that position, you really have to love it. Like, and I just didn't. So I tried, like, I did give it a good go, but I remember coming back from Japan and thinking, no, if I'm going to play, I want to play how I love playing. Like, I knew I kind of know there's not too many years left, you know, and at that point I kind of said, you know, maybe the international career isn't going to be much longer, but do I really want to be here and maybe a travelling reserve and getting very little minutes as a prop, or do I want to go back and play club? And if it's good enough, it's good enough. But if not, at least I'm enjoying my rugby and I'm enjoying how I play. Like, so that was a big kind of part of the decision to go back playing back row. And for me anyway.
It suited you anyway.
Look, in fairness, like, the couple of games the 2 seasons at prop were good too, you know, because I kind of got into those random positions that, you know, props probably shouldn't be, and it suited the style of play that I had. So, and like that, then I was scoring a lot of tries because I was just there and I was fit. But yeah, I love playing 8, like, so Now, if I could get a global pandemic and get back to that fitness, that would be great as well. While I'm playing 8, I wouldn't mind it. So that a lockdown, a 3-month lockdown would be nice too.
Don't wish that on us.
I tell you what, you mentioned earlier on, actually, I'm pretty sure we can assume there's a lot of very serious, very professional, very driven people on, well, all of the squads that you're playing on. But who's the biggest messer that you've been on a squad with?
And why is it you?
We want names.
Yeah, it's definitely Nicole Cronin. Literally, always like even like not even remotely shocked. Like definitely the biggest joker. Just she's just carnage. Like we still sit at like going to Bowls games. We still sit at the back of the bus together. Like we're children. Like and we're the oldest. Like we keep saying we need to retire. We are the oldest here, and we're just the two who are the biggest messers. But yeah. No, she's just stone mad, to be honest. I don't know how to describe her, but of all the squads, it has to be Nick.
You can kind of tell that about how she carries herself.
Any standout memories in particular?
Honestly, I couldn't say. Like, I remember, like, myself and Nick played soccer together, like, since we were 10 and 11. Like, we're not far from each other from our home house, like, and I remember the very first day meeting her, we went on a soccer match to Athlone. And there was a break between 2 games and Nicole arrived back with another girl and they were after getting all this trouble for being on train tracks. And like a train came and it was the biggest drama of the day. And since then, her life has been the same since I met her, like 20 years ago. Nothing has changed. That's the only way I can describe like things that happen. Like it's just a train wreck all the time with her and it's just great.
Who, out of everybody you've roomed with on any of the kind of away games and stuff, who's the standout? You don't want to room with them.
Oh,
you
Lord.
need to actually sleep.
Okay, that's grand. I was like, I don't know if I can name someone I didn't like rooming with. Yeah, like I never actually roomed with Nick. Like her and Aoife Doyle just had this band, the partnership that they wouldn't room with anyone else. So I never got to room with either of them. I don't really have a standout of anyone who just didn't like. It's probably me. Like I'm probably the one. The person I enjoyed, I suppose I can't really answer that. The person I enjoyed rooming with the most was actually Molly Scuffin, which is really random because we're very different. Just one random room, I think it was Molly's first cap. I was with her and then from them we actually just requested to room together and we got to room together for the whole of Japan and just, you know, the way opposites in a lot of senses, like, but just got on really, really like that. Molly's Leinster Railway, so complete opposites. Just a really good roommate and someone who'd look after you and pick up your stuff. But there's no one I'd say, you know, I really wouldn't want.
Yeah.
Because you kind of get to know people that way as well.
That's true. I was going to ask, you know, what is it like, you know, being, I suppose, for want of another word, enemies with some people on different AIL sides, and all of a sudden you're in camp together, you're working very closely together, and even rooming together. Is there any tension, or is there a switch that gets flicked and you just go, right, this is our team now, we're all together, let's go?
Yeah, no, to be honest, I like when I was, like anytime I was in Ireland, it was never there. I would say more so at Munster, we would slag about it and, you know, I don't know how many times Dara was like, with the Bows crowd, please give it a rest. Like, but with Ireland, like, it's actually funny because we obviously, you know, fierce rivalry with Railway, the Bows and things. But
yeah,
when we were like, especially during kind of the COVID era, like everyone was in separate dressing rooms. Like, you know, there was like, we were in pod systems. And what was funny was the UL Bows pod was the same as the Railway pod. So it was like, myself, Junior, Katie O'Dwyer, Larissa Muldoon, Ailsa Hughes, and like that, you know, fierce rivalry and, you know, everything, but like just great crack, like, and everyone just got on. So like it is, you just park it at the door, you know, and it actually like, the Railway girls are actually the people who probably get on with the most outside of it. You know, like I saw Aoife Mack the weekend and it was great to see her and everything. And after the game, you know, it's all hugs and everyone's friends. Like, so sometimes those fierce rivalries actually bond you more because you know how hard those people, you know, so it's like a mutual respect nearly for having them there. And after the matches, they say, you know, it's once you cross the whitewash, that's it, it's over and done with, and you can go.
Yeah, looking at the Six Nations competition now coming up, I think off the back of various performances last year, are we potentially looking at a narrowing of the gap between us and France, for example? Are we looking at a widening of a gap between England and France? What do you think we're looking at?
I think it's a widening of the gap of England and everyone. Unfortunately, even looking at the quality of the PWR final the weekend, like I watched that game and I thought, something, either of those teams would probably have beaten any other Six Nations side, a club team. Obviously, there was sprinkles of other internationals in around the squad, but yeah, they're just phenomenal. Like, when you look at the depths they have, like imagine playing 60 minutes and you're up against Sarah Byrne and then on comes Maud Muir. Like, what other team has the capacity to do that? And the same on the other side of the scrum, like, you've Matt Carston and then you've Hannah Botterman and they're interchangeable, and Lark Davis and Amy Cockane, and that's just the front row. It's a real scary kind of sight, and they just seem infallible. Canada gave them a good go, and you hear the interviews afterwards, they were nervous, and Canada, in fairness, nearly had their number. I think that will have driven them more. I think they'll be even better this Six Nations. France then is kind of a mixed bag, there was years there I was saying they were closing the gap, and then last year, England go to Bordeaux, it's set up for France to win, big stadium, sell out Bordeaux, down in the south of France, and then England just show up and, the game is over at halftime. France then, we went to WXV, the only team to beat is the US, but lost to Canada, lost to New Zealand. So it's kind of hard to know what way they're going to be this year. You'd like to think we've kind of closed the gap. We've made really good strides to close that gap. But, based off the last 2 years, they've beaten us quite comfortably. We closed the gap last year, obviously 38-17. The year before, obviously, we got hammered down in Virgin Media with a red card. So, even if we close it a little bit more, I'm kind of thinking maybe 12 points. But then again, I didn't think we'd beat New Zealand either. So what do I know?
Yeah. Yeah. I think, there's a lot of change going on across a lot of sides. They're trying to ramp up into a World Cup this year. But I think, for me, France are a little bit off the gas. I think, their run of form, they've won one of their last 5 games. WXV was particularly tough competition, of course. But if you look at us, we've won 3 of our last. I think in terms of run of form, I think we're doing pretty well. I think France possibly might not quite have the confidence that they would have had last year. But do you think that the France team is really going to be turning it on for the World Cup, or do you think they just don't have that depth this year?
I think they still have such high quality players who can make things of nothing. Bourdon Sansu, she's the French Dupont, isn't she really? And she can just score from nothing. Even now, as far as I'm aware, Romain is gone, injured. So, a bonus to us, really.
Anything. We'll take anything.
Yeah, we'll take it. But obviously her sister Marine is still there, so she'll be playing. But, they do have these quality players kind of sprinkled across the park. It just didn't seem to click last year. You'd imagine they're going to be building, obviously, for a World Cup and aiming for that top spot in their group. I still think they probably have enough. And I think physically they're going to be a little bit too powerful for us. But I'm hoping to be wrong. But just looking at the kind of firepower, they've Vernier in midfield, Sochad, Hooker, really quality players, that they might do enough. And then I just wonder on the Astro, will they run away with it? But again, kind of remains to be seen. It's kind of depends what France shows up. It's kind of a cultural thing with the away teams as well, isn't it? Yeah, if it's the France who went to Canada, no doubt we'll beat them. But I do think they'll have learned from that. And you've mentioned, they've only won 1 of their last 5. England was 2 of those games. So I think anyone who plays England is going to be 0 from 2, really. So it's probably not fair to bucket that into the run of form and compare them. But I suppose that's their stats.
And I think the thing about France as well is, it's not just what France team you end up playing on the day. I think they're so adaptable in terms of their game. They can switch from different styles within a game very quickly. They can react to what's in front of them so well. And I think, historically the Irish teams have struggled with that. You can see a marked difference from the first half of rugby to the second half of rugby, but within a game, we've probably not had, the really experienced players who go, okay, we need to adapt to this, react to that, and suddenly play a different style of play. Do you think we're going to see that with the Irish team now? Are we going to be able to do that now that we have more experienced players, now that we have, a lot of the PWR girls, and like I said, a lot of the Sevens girls coming back into it? We got that ability to adapt our game a little bit more than we used to?
I think we definitely have the ability, right? Because, we've seen it. But I don't think it's the game plan. And this would be my biggest worry for this team is, we're very, I call it Saracens, like, let's kick the ball and, try live off mistakes and defend. And look, Saracens did it for years and it worked, and, but that's my worry is we kick a lot. And to be honest, from watching the Celtic Cup and knowing the way the Clovers and the Wolfhounds played, they did the exact same. They kicked the living leather off the ball, right? It's not for great viewing, especially when we have such electric players. But that's kind of my worry is our style of play is very one-dimensional. And again, look, it works. Like, we beat New Zealand. It worked when we got those opportunities. We went to the line out. Dana kicked her points, which she's an exceptional kicker. Don't get me wrong. But like, if that doesn't work and we're chasing a game, like, as you said, there has to be a point where you adapt and understand that you need the ball. And you can't keep kicking it away, So does she have that experience? Like, we're looking at centres possibly outside her. I'd imagine she'll start. I don't think anyone will push her. I would say she will start at 10. You're going to have Eve, Aoife Dalton, Enya, something of that combination. Are they willing to say, let's be brave, let's stop kicking the ball away because we're going to need it? I don't know. I haven't seen it yet. Obviously, we know, like, the wingers and the Sevens girls, we know what they can do. Like, give Lee a chance, Amy Lee, and she'll run the pitch. But I don't think that's the style of play they're going with. So at what point, who makes that decision? Does that call have to come in from Scott above? It's not working, or are the players bold enough to say, right, stop kicking it away. Let's do this. Let's play heads up rugby. Like,
you were talking earlier about, the back row options, and, if Tricky is potentially the one to miss out, we don't have Sam Monaghan on the pitch. We don't have either of our co-captains there. Who is the natural leader who's going to take over there? And, is there somebody with a voice who can guide the team and change up play when we need it?
Yeah, like, for me, it would be Enya. I thought Enya did a stellar job in WXV when both Sam and Tricky were gone. So for me, naturally, it would be her. In the pack, then, like, Darrow brings a lot of experience, especially the season she's had with Exeter. Like, she was a standout performer for them. She brings, like, having played with her as well with Munster, she is kind of, she will lead by example and she will rally those around her. Brit's the same, like, Brittany, like, will put her body on the line. Like, every time you see her, she's a black eye, she's stitches, she's something. She's a real war horse, like. So I do think those leaders are naturally there. Like, players like Erin King and Aoife Wafer, they lead by their actions. I don't think they're, I'm not saying they're not captain material, but I don't think that's the position or that's going to be their role this year for Ireland. I think they'll just lead by actions. So for me, like, it would be Enya would be the person I'd put into that role if Tricky wasn't on the pitch. And then after that, you just delegate to, like, the likes of Darrow and Brittany in the pack to kind of lead that part around and to speak to the ref on those kind of things.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating to see the likes of Aoife Wafer and Erin King. You do want them to play with that freedom. You do want them to just, to not be burdened by the captaincy role or having to lead, by just being able to play what's in front of them and run. I'm very excited to see what the two of them do this season, to see, have they upped their game? Will they want to play more ball? Will they be hungrier? And I just don't see an end to Aoife Wafer's hunger, certainly. She's just a human wrecking ball of a player. It's fascinating.
Yeah, she's an incredible athlete. Like I was down in Italy for her first cap, and she, like that, kind of another Katrina Finn. Like, she lives and breathes it. Like, has played forever. Like, played with the boys, wearing a scrum cap. Like, all the stories that go with it. But and then unfortunately has been blighted by injury. Has already had a fair share of injuries, which is probably the frightening thing about her potential is, we haven't even got to see her have a clean run at bill of health. Even since, she's only played a small bit with the Wolfhounds, she didn't get to play any club. Before that, she was late to the Interpros because of injury. It's just seems to be a cycle for her. But to be honest, if we can get her fit for a Six Nations World Cup, who gives a damn what game she plays, because she's just able to switch it on. And if she can have that performance without having a run of 10 games, imagine what she'll be like in a World Cup when she gets those 4 or 5 in a row. Erin King,
that's
the
a
same.
Terrifying prospect.
Absolutely.
It really is, yeah.
And then it's just how do you manage her? Because unfortunately, and maybe I'm wrong, but she isn't as robust as some of the other players. She does seem to pick up these niggles, but a lot of that is probably how she plays. She goes hard, she goes into a lot of rucks, it's just unfortunate, but she throws her body around and she kind of picks up these. But when she's fit, by God, she leads the team, and she'd put her head where some people wouldn't put their boots, and she's so powerful. She's incredibly hard to stop. Having been on the end of it, incredibly tough to stop. Such power.
I wouldn't.
Yeah, I wouldn't want
attempt.
to do it. No,
no, you can't. Thanks.
If you could give one piece of advice to your younger self, Chloe, what would it be?
Don't play prop. No, I'm joking. Just joking. If I could give, it would be to give it everything earlier and I suppose it's a personality thing, and I see it in younger players now, as I said, when I was underage, I was just running over people, and I never really spent time to learn the team aspect of it as much. And then when you come to senior rugby, you get a real rude awakening of, you've gone from a big fish in a small pond to a very small fish in a big pond. So it would definitely have been just to do more and learn more. In fairness, I was very lucky, when I played a bit of college and things, but when I came to Bowes, I had Louise Beamish as my 9 and Niamh Briggs as my 10. And believe me, that was a very steep learning curve that first season as 8, with the 2 of them on my back, but it was the best learning I did. I learned from real experience, but just understanding, your role within the team, and that it is a team game, it's not one person does all. As I said, I see it now in provincial talent squads and in skill sessions, there's these incredible players and, they think they can do it all because they've always done it all. They've carried their club team for years and they've always been the person who scores the tries, gets the turnovers, makes the tackles. So they cut across everyone and they don't pass the ball, but they still score. So I think just for me, it would be definitely understanding that a little bit more earlier. And I think I might have gotten on a bit better when I went into senior then. Mine has finished off.
Yeah, I think the transition must be incredibly hard. Going from, being the centre of a team and then all of a sudden you're just, like you said, a small fish in a big pond.
Yeah, it's tough.
We're going to have to talk at some point about the proposal though, right?
That's fair. The proposal and the wedding.
What was it like? Had you any idea?
Honest to Lord, no clue. We always joked because I'd always say, we're listening downstairs now. I always say that I do everything the clothes as a princess and I do everything. So I always said from day one, I'm not doing it. I said, I do everything else. I am not doing it. But honestly, and the reason I had no idea was it's because it was probably one of the worst weeks I ever had in rugby. I was after being dropped for the Leinster game. I suppose I wasn't dropped. I was coming back from injury and, I was on the bench for the Ulster game and Derv starts at 8 and Derv gets player of the match. And I suppose, what do? You can't get back in. Look, I understood, it's, what do you do? Tell someone who scores 3 tries and they get player of the match, they're now on the bench. It's not how life works and it's unfortunate and that's injuries. So that week at the Leinster game, I was on the bench and it was a tough week because I was coming back from injury. I was after working so hard to try to get back, but just was part of it, so I definitely didn't expect it because of that, really, because it wasn't a good week. But look, that got the win and Clodagh scored herself and had a cracking game, so fair play to her and for going through with it. I'd never have done it like that, if I'm really honest. I wouldn't have had the nerve to ask Briggsy, but she did and she did it, and look, we're planning now, so less than 3 months to the big day, so I'm looking forward to it. Yeah.
Did the rest of the squad have much of a crack with you in the dressing room, joking about wedding plans and stuff since then?
Oh, sure, it hasn't stopped. Like, every bus journey we get, it's Chloe and Chloe. Well, actually, for the younger girls, it's mom and mom's wedding. That's how old we are. Like, it's mom and mom. Like, can't wait for this. Like, the girls last week were like, oh my God, we've so much to plan for the wedding. And I was like, what are you on about? You just have to show up. It's like, you do not know how stressful it is. So yeah, there's about 4 different rugby tables going. We're trying to explain to the hotel, like, I know everyone probably says this, but they're mad, like, you know. So, and, you know, she's kind of looking at us and I'm like, she's no idea what's coming. Like, I actually
It's a different level of mad from a rugby team.
Yeah, honestly, like, it's probably guitars and hats, scarves and headbands and yeah. So, look, they've been warned anyway, but I'd say they're afraid to believe it, you know. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the wedding, but I'm looking forward to the crack with the rugby girls as well, I suppose.
Good stuff. 3 months to the day, is it?
Yeah, literally time is flying by, but we're fairly organised, thankfully. But yeah, just like that, with rugby, April will fly and May then will be hen and yeah, so it'll be around in no time.
Predictions for the game. What do you think? What's your optimistic prediction and what's your pessimistic prediction going in? Best and worst.
Well, this best we win, worst we lose, I suppose.
So much.
Yeah, I'm gonna say best we win by 5. I think we'll have to pull out one of them performances again. And New Zealand. Think worst. I think we've closed the gap. Like, I'm looking, we lost 21, lost by 21 the last time. I still think France have the capability to do that. So I think worst case we lose by 20. I'm hoping worst case we lose by 20 and not one of them big scores. But yeah, the optimist in me obviously hopes that we just pull out of a performance, first game at home, and just build and build and build. But I just know the capabilities France have, and obviously we've already highlighted, they're coming off the back of a losing streak. They're going to want to change that big year as well. Like, they're going to want to be challenging, you'd imagine, in a World Cup and setting their sights on definitely a final, if not to win it. So I think it's a big year for them as well. So unfortunately, I think France probably will just be a bit too powerful, but hopefully wrong.
Yeah, it's a big game to start the campaign out on, isn't it?
Huge.
Even France at home, France at all, and we did the same last time round. It's a tough ask, but I don't know. I think there's something special there. I think personally, my prediction would be Ireland by 2.
Okay.
Very narrow. Very narrow.
A penalty to win it from the touchline from Dana, maybe.
Yeah. Cian, predictions?
Yeah, I think Ireland by a score. I think they have it in them, and I think that if they could start the campaign with a win against France, it would be a hell of a thing. Really set up the rest of the campaign.
Really open up that table as well, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
England and then the rest.
yeah. The second.
Instead of England, France and the rest.
Yeah. Who comes second?
Yeah. Well, that wraps up the first episode of MudderRucker. Don't forget to follow and rate. It's a huge help for us, and please share on your socials. Thank you to our incredible guest, Chloe Pearse, and for myself and Cian. Thank you all for listening. Until next week, keep on rucking.